Republicans so far inclined to give Herman Cain the benefit of the doubt.
President Obama's secret strength.
And Bill Clinton's take on the election. I'm Frank Newport, Gallup editor-in-chief.
I'm Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today.
And this is Election Matters. Well, Susan, there's certainly no shortage of news about the election. We're here on Monday afternoon, and another female has come forth and accused Herman Cain of sexual harassment back when he was head of the National Restaurant Association. Our most recent USA Today Gallup poll went from last Wednesday and Thursday through Sunday, so it was very current, mind you, and yet it still doesn't, of course, take into account any reactions to this. But the data show that Republicans are split to some degree, but the majority say they're inclined to say the charges against Herman Cain are not true. And importantly, in our trial heat ballot, he's still up there tied with Mitt Romney for the lead.
You know, that's certainly true, but we do see that positive intensity score that we talk about. That is, Republicans' view of Herman Cain taking something of a hit. It's fallen a bit. And we also see, I think, the electorate a little undecided. I mean, a plurality say that they don't think the charges are true, but not a majority. And people haven't been paying that much attention. Only about half of those we surveyed said they were paying very much attention. So as these new charges come forward, I think that has the potential to cause some changes in people's views.
Absolutely. And your points are well taken. We gave Republicans a choice about saying the charges are definitely or probably true, or definitely or probably not true. And where did Republicans go? They all went into the probably category. So they're hedging their bets. Very few Republicans on either side think that they know definitely what's going on with Herman Cain. Also, by the way, there was one question which was hypothetical, where we said if charges against a candidate generically are proven to be true of sexual harassment, what did we find?
Well, it was interesting, I thought. It shows that Americans do take these charges seriously. If they were proven, a majority of Republicans say they would definitely not vote for a candidate who was clearly guilty of sexual harassment.
And that's what we're waiting to see with these latest charges, where an actual female came forth with her name and you saw her talking to the cameras, whether that'll make a difference. Of course, again, our poll through Sunday included a lot of those charges and a lot of media discussion of the charges, and yet we have 21% of Republicans saying their first choice for the nomination would be Cain, 21% Romney. What do you make out of that?
You know, we saw some red flags for Cain if these charges get some traction. We also saw some red flags for Governor Romney in that his support is 21%. You know, the very first Gallup poll taken more than a year ago about the Republican field had him at 19%. His support has not budged, even as other candidates have had these dramatic rises in at least two cases with Governor Perry and Congresswoman Bachmann. Disastrous crashes. Those voters are not going to Mitt Romney.
He just can't budge, as you say, above the 20% range in there somewhere. His positive intensity score that we're going to be releasing shortly on Tuesday is now down some more, where it's barely just above that of Rick Santorum. So, and that's a great measure because it's asking Republicans, do you feel strongly when you say you feel favorably about, in general, favorably about Romney, and a lot of them say no, they don't feel strongly about it. So he's just not generating excitement, Susan.
And if Herman Cain support falls as a result of these charges or for other reasons, who seems poised to benefit? Well, maybe Newt Gingrich.
Former Speaker of the House.
Whose positive intensity score is up and who is now in third place in the Republican horse race.
Now, statistically, he's tied with Rick Perry, but he gets 12 and Perry gets 11 support. And as we mentioned, the other two, Cain and Romney, get 21%. His positive intensity score, that is former Speaker Gingrich, is now up to about 15. That's the highest he's seen in a long time, and clearly puts him in second place on that measure, behind only Herman Cain, whose positive intensity score is starting to come down.
You know, I was struck by the positive intensity score for Governor Perry, who was so popular there briefly. It's down to 3 points, which is extremely low and shows the big steep climb he has if he's going to get back into this race.
Absolutely. Be fascinating. We'll be talking next week and see where things stand at that point. Now, Susan, all of these Republicans have to go against somebody, and that somebody's going to be Barack Obama. We did a swing states poll, great poll of the 12 states that we determined are most likely to be in play. I released it last week. One of the findings was when we pit Obama against the generic Republican candidate, he does best on foreign policy, international threats, and terrorism, the way we phrased it.
Interesting, because Democrats often don't fare as well as Republicans when it comes to national security and defense issues. But on this measure, President Obama's doing fine.
He's inoculated himself against what was Bush's strength, and we went back and looked, and in 2008, McCain was better positioned on terrorism. That was his one area of strength against Obama. So all of a sudden, Obama's inoculating himself on this whole issue, and we're going to have new data coming out within a day or two on approval ratings of Obama. And of course, his overall approval ratings down in the 40% range, but on terrorism, it looks like it's going to be up to 60%.
So that's good news for President Obama. The only problem for him is that this is not the issue on which Americans are voting. So he can't be slammed for it by the Republicans. But if you talk to Americans, what's the issue you care about? They're not saying foreign policy and terrorism. They're saying it's the employment, it's jobs, it's the economy in general, it's the size and cost of government.
And absolutely, our data show unemployment actually looking a little better. Our Gallup data, although the BLS didn't quite come along as much with their data. But speaking of jobs and the economy, none other than former President Bill Clinton is putting out a whole new book talking about what he thinks should be done with the economy. It looks like it's kind of advice for Obama. And you sat down and talked with Bill Clinton just last week.
I did indeed, and he has, of course, a lot of thoughts on politics, as he always does. He acknowledged in the interview that Obama will need to do something unprecedented. No president in modern times has won a second term with unemployment as high as even White House economists say it's going to be. Now, Bill Clinton said that he thinks it's still possible for President Obama to win a second term. He needs to succeed in convincing voters that if progress hasn't been made, it's really the Republicans' fault, not his own. But boy, you compare President Obama standing now with where Bill Clinton was at this point, what would the comparison be?
Clinton in November of 1995, which was the same point then going into the 96 election where he ran against Bob Dole, Clinton was at 52 and 53% job approval rating. By the way, we looked at Reagan at the same point. He was already into the 50% range as well. So Bill Clinton, as you talked to him, probably remembered that he was on an upward tick by the fall before his election year. And so far, Obama's been up a little in our approval ratings, but certainly he's not anywhere near the 50% range, at least yet.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see what happens, Susan, next week. And the week after that are going to be fascinating on the Republican side. And we've got debates, do we not?
We do. We have a debate coming up just Wednesday night in Michigan.
And then we have more debates between now and January 3rd, don't we?
There are a lot of debates coming up.
We'll see if Rick Perry participates in them. That's great. I'm Frank Newport, Gallup Editor-in-Chief.
I'm Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today.
And this is Election Matters.